Hi, my name's Alexis Quinn, and this is,
I'm Kathy Harding. I'm a clinical psychologist.
and we're here to speak about staff always know the truth, or even they often know the truth. So, just to start, sort of an example of this was, I think a key one is I'm a person that needs like a lot of like movement, like a lot of like proprioceptive input. Anyone that knows me when I'm a bit of a tigger. And when I was in inpatient settings, obviously it's like a contained space, so there wasn't really any sort of moving that I could do. So I used to kind of like pace up and down to get that input, just to help me sort of modulate my sensory world. And without that, I would feel like my skin was on fire, basically. That was always written down as agitation, always kind of pathologized and not seen as a useful thing to do. And so it meant that I was kind of rewarded when I didn't do that, when actually it would make sense to reward me, or just accept, not even reward, but just accept that that's something that I might need to do, that kind of helps me.
Yeah, that just helps you to, I guess, in what they would talk about behaviour is to be at baseline, to be okay, and that's
Yeah.
not a sign of distress, is it? It's something different.
Yeah, and it's just
And
like that's a sort of a normal thing for me. Like it's a
yeah,
normal thing for me to kind of need that amount of input, but it was like staff knew that it was a pathology, that it was something wrong, and then it led to the idea that it needed to be fixed.
needed to be stopped.
Yeah,
Although stopping it increased the agitation.
exactly.
So it's
Perverse,
like,
right?
yeah, a perverse stopping. And the example that we also talked about, me mentioning today, was about how in your PBS plan it talks about a kind of trigger for your distress being not seeing your daughter, and it's literally written as Alexis can't see her daughter, not seeing daughter. And when I looked at that, I was just so struck by how devoid of human emotion that was. I think as a mum, as mums, it's of course, it's really upsetting if you want to see your then baby child and you're not able to. And it was just really striking how it had been turned into an emotionless, observable trigger that didn't resonate with the sort of humanity of that experience, which actually I think staff and other people would have felt much more connected to if that was reflected in that statement somehow.
Yeah, and it's kind of the othering, isn't it? That I
Yeah.
that that's a trigger, and that I shouldn't feel that, and that it's a pathology to kind of feel that, and that trigger should be avoided. So we shouldn't mention my daughter. It's a problem if she comes. It's a problem if we facilitate contact. Um, and so for me, this kind of staff knowing is what we would call an epistemic injustice. And the next kind of step to that is, not only was my knowing and my experiencing and my understanding not listened to or taken seriously or empathized with in a human way, it was this kind of violence that occurred, an epistemic violence. And knowing, because we know, we then behave in ways which aren't human, which don't connect with anything inside of me, or that humanity, I guess.
Well, it's that disconnection, isn't it, between the observable behavior and the emotional experience. And that means that then the relationships become disconnected because without that relational sharing, that relational experience, it's hard to have meaningful relationships with people.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just wondering, from your position, Kathy, what if a person, and I mean, I was often not able to verbalize, actually. So staff might say, "Oh, well, I didn't know because, I wasn't speaking," or, how do you manage that if somebody,
Well,
can't
again, I think
speak?
it's, yeah, I think again, it's about being curious about that, about um, opening up the possibility of that thing being an emotional experience for people and talking making our best guesses about what might be going on for somebody in a way which isn't about knowing better, but is about raising that possibility. So I often talk with people about, we're curious, not because we want people to agree with us, but because we're just raising the possibility that it could be this thing or it could be other things. And I think trying to do some of that talking with the person, but talking for the person when they're not able to verbalize it but that has to be done in a really curious, light way, not in a I know best way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks everybody for joining us for this episode of Principles into Practice. Staff Knowing is Truth.